title insurance. So real estate transactions can be risky, but what matters to our clients? Is it risk? They probably don't care as much about risk as they do about the desire to create a home in that kitchen or the ensuite or the huge basement that they fell in love with. So a few things that title insurance would cover is title issues, so title defects, encumbrances, and liens, off-title issues, so such as non-compliance in zoning regulations or lack of building permits, and transactional issues, so things like title fraud and survey issues. With FCT, what we cover as well, it included in every policy is the duty to defend. So what this means is that we'll pay the legal fees and the costs incurred to defend the insured's interest in the property. And the nice thing about this is the duty to defend has no impact on the amount of coverage that's in place. And just so you guys know, the value of the policy is the selling price of the property. So some key features. So there's a one-time premium. There's no deductible except for fence encroachments here in Alberta. And the big one is no fault claims process. So this is very important for you to remember, meaning we're not going to go on a witch hunt to see who lied when providing us information. All we need to know is that the insured has suffered a loss. This is important because you have an obligation to ask the questions to your client. If the question's been asked and answered, you've fulfilled your obligation. It's not your responsibility to grill the seller and see if they're telling the truth. And also, people lie. As a seller, and a seller might tell you that they knew nothing of the deck or the finished basement, and that it was like that when they bought it, or they don't know or remember if permits were pulled for the addition. We've had instances where the seller is a widow and her husband did work to the property 30 years ago, and she didn't know what he did or didn't do, or if he got permits. So that's why it's important for you to ask your clients if there are any issues, and if they don't know, they don't know. Now, that being said, if you do know of an issue, then obviously you need to disclose it for us. And with known issues, just because it is a known issue doesn't assume that, don't assume that we won't cover it. We can always review it on a case-by-case basis with our underwriters. So in speaking of known issues, another important point in regards to foreclosures, which I'm sure a lot of you deal with. So if on the sales agreement you put as is and write nothing else, title insurance will provide coverage for anything that the city enforces the purchaser to rectify because of an unknown issue. So if there's any deficiencies that you write down, automatically they become exceptions to the policy because the purchaser is assuming their responsibility for them. So it's really important on those foreclosures to know that if you're putting as is, that you'll be covered because it becomes an unknown issue. So protection as well is in place for as long as the insured has interest in the property. So it's also important to remember that there's two types of policies for title insurance. So there's an owner policy and there's a loan policy. So the owner policy or the lender policy does not protect your client. For lender policies, the lenders mandate any requirement for insurance in instructions to the buyer's solicitor, and that the policy centers on protecting the priority, enforceability, and validity of the mortgage being registered. So about 85% of lenders in Alberta today are mandating title insurance. It's not a matter of if, but when all lenders will mandate this. Right now, the purchaser pays for the lender policy, and it's the purchaser's lawyer that sets this up. So FCT will also provide pre-approvals over known defects at the negotiation stage of the agreement of purchase and sale. So if you're aware of an issue such as an encroachment, you need only contact us and they can provide the lawyer with a pre-approval of coverage. That's our underwriting department. So that title insurance can be negotiated into the agreement of the purchase and sale. As a real estate professional, not only can you teach your client about what title insurance is, but you can control the requirement for a homeowner policy by writing it into the purchase agreement. So you can write right in there, buyer to purchase homeowner title insurance policy from FCT, or seller to purchase title insurance for the buyer. So it's right in there and it's part of the contract. So this will be handled by your legal professional as they would arrange both owner and lender policies. And it's important for you to know that with both loan and owner policies, if they're purchased in the same transaction, the borrower will see a substantial savings on the second policy as the policies are being underwritten together. So primarily in the session today, we're going to discuss the homeowner coverages. So on the screen now is a list of the homeowner coverages. So examples of coverages we would include are work orders, tax utility and arrears, survey defects, lack of building permits, zoning violations, encroachments, title defects, violations of restrictive covenants, fraud, and gap coverage. Looking at a loan policy, so it would cover validity and lack of priority and unenforceability of the mortgage, survey defects, encroachments including boundary wall and fences, post-policy coverage is included, work orders, zoning violations, lack of building permits, illegal use of property for controlled substances, fraud, including post-policy, and gap coverage. So the number one claim that we see here in Alberta is lack of permits, and it represents about 75% of our claims. I hear lawyers and realtors say we have a clean inspection, and that's an inspection report, and that's something that we hear quite a bit. And those are really useful documents, but remember that inspectors don't punch the holes in the walls. It's the things that you don't see that are going to cause the most problems. And again, with title insurance, you don't need to investigate issues or uncover them. In the event that the city enforces the purchaser to remedy something in the future that was unknown at the time, we will cover that claim. So again, in speaking with lawyers all the time, one thing I hear as well is that I don't need title insurance because I have a good RPR. So let's talk about that. And an RPR is a great document. It's a useful document, but it's also limited in its scope in that it only deals with the outside of the property. It basically tells you the structures in your property and where they're supposed to be. It does not deal with anything on the inside of the home. So title insurance deals with both the inside and the outside, and more importantly, it provides recourse. If you opt for an updated RPR and something's discovered and comes back non-compliant, what do you do then? You need to go back and renegotiate a holdback, a reduction in price, or possibly put the deal at risk. RPR-related claims represent only about 5% of the claims for us. Another misconception is related to condos. There are some that believe that title insurance doesn't insure condos, and we absolutely do. The common issues that we see in condos are things like a special assessment. So if a special assessment was ratified by the condo board but was not documented, this would be considered an unknown issue, and we would pay that special assessment. Another issue with condos is in arrears condo fees. So with condo boards, interest rate can vary greatly. We've seen issues where there's condo fees arrears, but the condo board didn't discover this in their books until later on after the sale. And an important thing to remember is delays in condo fees or record keeping don't go to the owners, they go to the property. So they were faced with a condo fee arrears no one knew about. So it wasn't remedied at the lawyers. And in that instance, we paid the claims due to it being an unknown issue. Another issue with condos is parking and parking stalls. So say there's supposed to be 2 parking stalls with a unit, but you find out that there's only 1, we would cover the legal costs associated with rectifying this, which could run upwards toward $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, but that would be covered. Kind of switching gears a little bit, we also offer protection in the new home construction space. So our post-construction endorsement provides coverage for a year from the date of possession for things that get delayed due to seasonality, things like decks, driveways, air conditioners, etc. In the event that one of these is built without permits or encroaches onto someone's property right away, we would provide coverage for these types of unknown issues that may arise. So another thing is if a construction lien is put on the property by a contractor working for the builder and the lawyer doesn't catch it during their searches because of timing, we would pay that construction lien as well, because that would be an unknown issue, which seems to be a common theme. We had a claim in Calgary as well for an air conditioning unit that I mentioned that was encroaching on the neighbor's property, and we paid $3,500 to move the air conditioner back further so it didn't encroach. A main thing with title insurance, so what triggers the policy, and that's an enforcement letter from the municipality, except in the case where an encroachment, where the neighbor can trigger the policy by forcing you to remedy something that is encroaching on their property. So I provided a few examples here of some other issues or claims that we've had. So there's a couple here where they would be claims where, given the situation, we would have claimed it had the owner had proper coverage in place. So the problem here is a homeowner in BC was trying to sell their condo. They had lived there for a number of years, and during the selling process, it came to light that work done by a previous owner via a plumber didn't have board approval. Now the Strata Corp is trying to hold them liable since this work is now affecting the entire building. So in this case, no homeowner policy means no title insurance solution, unfortunately. So FCT would have covered the costs of removing or remedying the unapproved work if they had a policy. In addition, the situation could have implications on the mortgage company as well. And if the costs of this claim put the client into default and the lender forecloses, then they're stuck with a defective property and the loss that comes with it. If they have a loan policy, the lender would be covered in the scenario as well. This is another one regarding a lack of building permit. So the insured received a notice from the City of Calgary requiring that a building permit be obtained for an addition to the dwelling that was constructed without a building permit by the previous owner. The insured obtained an engineer's report stating that the addition needed to be removed. So what FCT did is we retained an adjuster to attend the property with the contractor to provide a quote for the demolition of the addition and to provide an opinion on the feasibility of reconstruction. Based on the information received, FCT paid the cost of the demolition and the reconstruction, or the cost of the demolition and the decrease in the value of the property, as well as the loss of the addition. Another example, again, of lack of building permits, as I said, that's our biggest claim. So after a cold spell in Winnipeg, a couple's pipes froze in a recently purchased home. A contractor called in to thaw the pipes promptly and instructed them to contact the City of Winnipeg. While dealing with the pipe issue, the city realized a previous bylaw violation, which required the previous homeowner to repair plumbing and electrical work, as well as an improper stair guard leading to the basement, which was never remedied. So in addition, the floor joists and the foundation also required major structural repairs. The city now demanded they comply with the bylaw violation within 14 days, otherwise face potential legal action. The solution we had, so the bylaw violation notice from the city triggered coverage from FCT because the homeowners were being forced by a government authority to remedy an existing structure because it was built without the required building permits. So again, we can't stress the importance enough. We don't know what we don't know. And just because somebody says that there was permits doesn't necessarily mean that they're always in place. And that is what we're now seeing in a lot of the claims that come through, where it is lacking the building permits. So in this case, the work was paid for by FCT as well as temporary housing costs for the owners. So a nice way to avoid any legal action from them and save them some money. A work order. So just before closing, a seller received notice of an outstanding work order that was in existence prior to their purchase of the property. The cost of the work required to lift the order was $11,315, and the prospective purchaser was ready to walk away from the deal, not wanting the expense or hassle. So in this case, not only did FCT pay the $11,315 on behalf of the vendor to resolve the work order, but we also issued a free policy to the new purchaser and worked with them to resolve the issues in question. The deal went ahead as planned, closing on time and the satisfaction of all parties involved. So went from being a loss of a sale and walking away from the property to a situation where the homeowner's happy and the realtor's happy as well. So that's really it for my presentation right now. But I do see that the chat is kind of filling up a little bit. So we will definitely answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, I was monitoring questions in the chat, and the first question was from Karen. So she says, title fraud coverage is great. Lenders still require RPRs though, right?
So that's a great question. So in this case, with our title, one of our title, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. With our covered risks, RPR would be covered in there because we will cover you for anything that would show up on the RPR. So an RPR is obviously a good document to have, but title insurance would take the place of that in that instance.
Jeff, can I add just a little bit? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So this is Debbie. So as Jeff mentioned, 85% of deals on the lender side are title insured. We work with most lenders. The requirement, obviously, for an RPR, the lender doesn't need to get that if they are going with our title insurance instead. However, specific lenders might still want them for another reason. So I guess there's two answers to that question. They're not required by FCT anymore to get that RPR, but some might still want them on their own. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Okay, the next question here is from Ed. Regarding RPR, can the seller ask the buyer to accept an RPR that is from the builder in 2018, 4 years ago? In today's market, sellers are demanding terms that was not normal before. Shall I read it again?
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Regarding RPR, can the seller ask the buyer to accept an RPR that is from the builder in 2018, 4 years ago? In today's market, sellers are demanding terms that was not normal before.
Debbie, do you want to jump on this one?
Yeah, sure. That wouldn't really fall within the title insurance side, so we can't really answer that question for you. I think that's something you want to maybe ask more to your real estate board. Might be able to give you a better answer there on that.
Okay, so the next question, the next question is from Susan. Please provide more details on condo special assessments.
Okay, I mean, that's a pretty kind of general term, so I'm not sure exactly what information you'd be looking for. But I mean, we do have great information on fct.ca, and I also have some information as well that I'd be able to send along that would kind of go, that would pair with that well and give you a little bit more information on it, because I'm not sure exactly what you're wanting to know on that one. So on the next slide is my email information, and definitely email me because I can send you a nice one sheet that I have that has all the coverages for condo, and it would explain special assessments a little bit more.
Okay, the question from Gary: does title insurance cover building a garage that was demolished because it was encroaching on either the city land or neighbor's property?
So I'm not exactly sure how this was first worded, like if it was already demolished or if it encroached already. Looking at it kind of like the way that I'm interpreting it, if the garage did encroach on it and we did need to put in a claim to remedy it because of the encroachment that was there, title insurance would cover that if it's based on your neighbor's property that it's encroaching on.
Okay, a lot of questions. The next one is from Koshi. How long does the title insurance last?
So title insurance lasts as long as the owner has interest in the property. So if they're living in it and they still convert it to a rental or anything like that, the title insurance is still in place. If they were to dispose of the property and get a new property, then they would need to get a new policy.
Okay, just 1 second, I'm copying new questions. From Kimberly, the question: can you please discuss in a bit more detail in the relationship between title insurance and us as realtors, not uncovering issues such as untitled parking permit, improvements without permit, etc. Is title insurance triggered in these circumstances?
Sorry, would you mind just reading that again, just the last part?
Yeah. Can you please discuss in a bit more detail the relationship between title insurance and us as realtors, not uncovering issues such as untitled parking permit, improvements without permit, etc. Is title insurance triggered in these circumstances?
So I think the question is looking at like on a condo policy and how I mentioned the parking spots, and if there was supposed to be two and then we found out there was only one, we remedy that situation. Again, going back to the relationship between the realtor, between yourselves and your clients, is you're going to ask the questions from the clients or from the sellers in that case. If it was an instance where it was a parking space and that was an oversight, there's not really anything you would have been able to do in that case because it was an oversight. So that's something we're covering. But as long as the questions are being asked by yourself of the buyer and of the seller, we're going to cover you for those known issues, or at least be able to take a look at certain ones if we're not able to cover them and see if there's an opportunity once we talk to our underwriters.
Okay, the next question is, what is the average cost for title insurance?
So the average cost, so looking at a homeowner and a lender policy, because there is a discount that's applied once you purchase both policies at the same time, you're looking at around $220,000 to $225,000. Or sorry, $225. That is based on a value of under $500,000. The best place to go on so you can get a quote is FCT, quote.fct.ca, and you can put in the value of the property and what type of policy you're looking for, and it can generate a quote instantly so that you'd be able to see that. But on average, it's around $225.
Okay, do you have any brochures that we can provide to buyers or sellers?
Absolutely. So we have a great one for realtors that show, coverages that would pertain a little bit more towards the conversations that you're having with your clients. Again, on the next, actually, I'll just flip it over now so that my email is on there. Definitely reach out to me because I can definitely provide those to you.
Yeah, and I will put now Jeff's email and website in the chat, so you can copy paste it. So the next question is, what is the difference between home title insurance and loan title insurance?
So again, looking at like a home, which I'm assuming you mean like an owner policy, and the lender policy. So in a loan or a lender policy, they're protecting the bank, they're protecting the lender on it, where they're not protecting anything that's in place for the homeowner. So I was speaking to that earlier. Most of the protection that's in place for your clients, so for the owners, it's not covered under a loan policy. It's its own separate thing that's protecting the lenders.
Okay, question from Shelley. If I have an RPR ordered but have not received it yet, or have not received compliance prior to possession, if title insurance is bought and an issue becomes apparent after possession, the clients are covered?
Sorry, I'm going to rephrase this just to make sure I understood. So if an RPR has been ordered and then after possession, the RPR is received and there's an outstanding issue?
Yeah, so let me read it again. If I have an RPR ordered but haven't received yet the RPR, the person hasn't received yet RPR, prior to possession, if title insurance is bought and an issue becomes apparent after possession, the client would the clients be covered if they have title insurance and the issue becomes, but they didn't see RPR before the possession?
Yes. So if you've ordered an RPR and it's something that would fall within the scope of an RPR in terms of what we'd be looking at for coverage, then we would cover that.
Okay, because it's a usual question. If RPR is not there before the possession, would title insurance cover any issues that come up after the possession?
As long as it's one of the covered issues that we have, yes, it would be covered.
Okay, perfect. The next question is, does title insurance cover when some years later you find out that it was a drug house?
So that, I'm going to answer this and then I'm going to get Debbie to jump in to correct me if I'm wrong. So looking at from a homeowner policy, it's not something that we cover, but it is covered under a lender policy.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a different side endorsement under the lender policy itself. But yeah, on the homeowner side, no, because that has nothing to do with title or structure or fraud. So usually, that would fall outside the scope of title insurance.
Okay, we have a question just now. What is a lender policy?
So a lender policy would also be a loan policy. Sorry, sometimes we use that interchangeably, but a lender policy would be something that is mandated by the bank or by a lender, that title insurance would be purchased by the client. So they see it a lot on reasons like gap coverage or something like that, or on refinances. It's something that they're asking for more and more.
Okay, next question is from Shelly. Years ago, I purchased an acreage with the title insurance and I was able to get a well rider. Do you still offer that? And what other riders do you offer?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure on that. That's something that I could definitely take to our underwriting department and find out and circle back with you, Shelly. It's not something that I've dealt with in my experience so far, but it's definitely something that I could look into and find out for you. Just reach out to me, just send me an email on that, please.
Okay, another one from Koshi. Does title insurance cover when some years later you found out that it was drug? Oh, sorry, I've read this one already. From Stacy, did you mention the approximate percentage of buyers who end up getting title insurance? And is this a conversation that their lawyer will have with them or that the lender will initiate? How much does title insurance cost? We already told about this. Let me read it.
Yeah, just read that again. I think I got it, but I just want to make sure.
Did you mention the approximate percentage of buyers who end up getting title insurance? And is this a conversation that their lawyer will have with them or that the lender will initiate?
Okay, so looking at the percentages, so in terms of title insurance, maybe as a whole, right now, not including lender policies, we're looking at probably around 40 to 55% in Alberta of coverages in place. So there's a lot of owner policies that are outstanding where they're not protected. The lenders will definitely talk to the clients about the lender policy, but they're not going to talk to them about the homeowner policy. That's where the realtors, it's really good spot where they should come in and just show them how they can be protected and the coverages that are there. They will talk about it at the lawyers, but sometimes with some of the solicitors, if you're not going in specifically asking for it, they might look at a lender policy and think, you know, that's suffice for what the requirement was.
Yeah.
And again, the cost for title insurance, so looking at both policies is around $225 in most cases.
Okay. We have a question here. I will read it first. This was Karen's question. Didn't hear the answer. Sukhwinder said. So a buyer can get title insurance when they purchase a foreclosure, and it protects them from unforeseen issues that may come up later when renovating, right?
So yeah, as long as it's not written in there as an exception, it's something that we already knew. So if it's written as is, and then there's a covered risk that comes up later, that would be covered under title insurance with foreclosures.
Okay. Okay, I've never seen so many questions.
Good, love it.
We have a lot. What is the maximum special assessment amount title insurance will cover?
What is what's the maximum?
Maximum special assessment amount.
Ooh.
Title insurance will cover.
To be honest with you, I'm not sure. Debbie, do you know offhand?
My silly dog started barking. I'm sorry, guys. No, I don't. I haven't seen a limit there. So I'm assuming, sorry about the dog. I'm assuming that there is none. We'll double check on that though, but that's something that's never really come up. We usually have been able to cover all the special coverages that we've gotten, so.
Okay, somebody was asking about the web page address. I've already put it in the chat and I will do it later at the end. And the question from Clint, can you purchase a policy after have already owned the home for a period of time?
Absolutely, yeah. So you can purchase a policy if you've already lived in the house. You can still go through and do the quote the same way on quote.fct.ca, and you can order directly through our website too.
Okay. What is gap coverage?
So gap coverage is looking at the date that you're closing to the date where you it's going to be actually registered on title. So with land titles, and I think I heard it's 11 weeks behind right now. So looking at that gap that is currently in place with the amount of time that it's going to take, title insurance is going to cover you for that, where you're able to close the deal now and not have to wait until we're able to make sure that that's fully registered.
Okay, we have the same question, I think similar. Can you purchase title insurance if you've owned your home for 20 years?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, you can do that. And another question is, how does that help the homeowner? Drug-related covers the lender. Maybe this question was related to something that we were discussing.
It was the drug house, I think, that was related. We don't have coverage for homeowners. The only reason we have an additional rider for lenders actually is the only time lenders can really benefit from that is if they end up going to having to sell a home at a loss or like completely redo it, knock it down. We've got a little bit of a rider that we provide to them for the price of their policy, but essentially there is no coverage for the drug house. Hope that explains it a little better.
Okay, is there a missing RPR scenario? What specific items should we point out to cover when purchase title insurance?
So is there, sorry, can you repeat that first part again?
The question is, if there is a missing RPR scenario, what specific items should we point out to cover when purchase title insurance?
Debbie, would you be able to take that one?
I read it here. I was trying to get it in my head what the question was. Just a second. So if there is no RPR,
yeah,
you're basically asking, what do you need to point to be able to purchase title insurance?
Yeah, what do we need to point out to cover when purchase title insurance?
You don't need to point out anything. A person can purchase title insurance in lieu of getting the RPR. And on the FCT side, we don't require you to get an RPR or find out what's on there. Now, like Jeff had said, you know, if part of your duties of being a realtor is to ask if there is one or ask if the client knows of anything that would be wonky on it, but we don't require a purchase of an RPR to give you title insurance or any information about the RPR to give you title insurance. Hope that helps.
Okay, the next question from Shelley. I'm a rural realtor and we use title insurance a lot, but I find city realtors and lawyers are not really aware or comfortable with them.
So, sorry, the question from Shelley was that she's a rural realtor, but city realtors aren't as comfortable with title insurance?
Yeah, I'm a rural realtor and we use title insurance a lot, but I find city realtors and lawyers are not really aware or comfortable with them. So she is a rural, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I think I understand. I mean, really, we're holding seminars and information sessions like this because we're trying to educate the realtor space a little bit more than what's been done in the past. You know, as I kind of mentioned, a lot of lawyers or a lot of the lenders are you know, typically the ones that are handling because they're ordering a lot of the policies. And there was a big space that was missed by, you know, not talking to realtors. So, you know, in instances like that, if there's realtors that you use all the time or that, you know, you collaborate with, or there's, you know, part of your team that aren't on the call today and they want to, you know, get information or do a seminar similar to this, or, you know, your brokerage house or things like that, I'm definitely happy to, you know, come out or do it via Zoom or whatever need be, just to educate a little bit further, because yeah, there's definitely a gap in that. And that's something that we're really trying to close this year.
Okay. The next question, is there a coverage limit for every item covered by insurance?
Is there coverage that covers everything that's covered by insurance?
Yeah, is there a coverage limit for every item covered by insurance?
Sorry, can you say it?
Maybe
I'm not hearing it properly.
It's a limit, Jeff. They're asking for, is there a limit to what each item that's covered? And essentially you have a policy that's worth the value of of the purchase price. Do you want to add anything to that, Jeff?
No, I think that's like, there's no specific limits. You're looking at the policy amount overall for the total coverage.
Okay.
So as an example, if there was there was a permit for development, there wasn't a permit for development for plumbing downstairs in a basement or something like that. And that came to, by the time everything was said and done, you know, that was 20,000 or something like that. We don't have any limit saying you only can get 15,000. You have an amount all the way amount to the value of that policy. So if things kind of went awry, like Jeff had in that example where another thing happened and another thing happened, that is all inclusive, and we look up to it up to the purchase price of that policy.
Okay. Jeff, are you okay with the answer? You don't want to add anything before I read the next one?
Yeah, no, we can go on to the next one.
Is there any reason for a seller to use title insurance?
Or a seller to use it?
Is there any reason for a seller to use title insurance?
Well, we definitely have instances where if there is, and I provided an example before where if there was an issue that was known and maybe not remedied, they could put something in place where the seller could purchase that policy for the new owner. In terms of the seller having their own policy, it would end once they no longer have an interest in the property.
Okay. How long will the title insurance cover for any special assessments as long as you own the condo?
So in the instance, if it's not something that's been ratified, like in the example that I gave, if it was something that was ratified, but it was misfiled or it wasn't communicated properly, that would be something where we cover it. If a special assessment comes up down the road, we'd really have to look at that on an individual basis to see what it is and if title insurance would cover it, because we don't just cover every special assessment as long as you have title insurance. It would depend on what the issue is, and our underwriters would take a look at that.
Okay. What is not covered by the title insurance coverage? What claims doesn't the title insurance cover? What is not covered by title insurance, basically?
So again, I have a brochure that would show, it's probably best because there is a lot of things that it does cover, and then it would give you a better idea of what it doesn't cover. So definitely reach out to me, because what I can do is I can forward that along and give you a better idea of exactly what is covered and what would not be covered.
Okay, the next question is from Mike. How can an agent ensure their client is protected and know the details of exactly what is covered under a particular policy? I assume,
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I will read it again then. I assume every title insurance policy can differ based on the provider and policy particulars. Is there a policy document that can be presented that outlines exactly what type and amount of coverage is being purchased? So
in terms of a couple of questions there. So the first thing is what could a realtor do? So again, providing the customer, first of all, with the conversation of having that conversation and telling them about title insurance and what it does cover, which I just touched about on my last one. I have a great one sheet that I can provide to you guys that would help you explain it and kind of give you that little bit of ammunition to have with your clients so that you can have that conversation. In terms of, looking at the second part, like a policy document. So they will receive a copy of their policy for title insurance for the lender one and also for the homeowner policy.
Okay.
And we could actually provide to an example of what our policy looks like if you wanted to have that, just so you could take a look at it. I think the question was, do policies differ a lot between providers to Jeff? And there's some difference. I mean, I think ours is superior, but that's me, but I think Jeff agrees as well. And different companies are more cutting edge as to new endorsements and whatnot they come up with. But with regards to if there's ever anything that you're concerned about might or might not be covered, like Jeff mentioned, you can just reach out to Jeff, and if he can reach out to one of our underwriters, and we could easily determine if this will be covered moving forward or not. Anything you'd like to add there, Jeff?
No, absolutely. I also think that we are cutting edge and we are the leaders in the title insurance space. Maybe we're a little bit biased, but I agree with Debbie on that. But by all means, I mean, reach out, have your clients reach out. Like if they have a question or they're not comfortable on it, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to be a valued partner to you guys and to help your transactions go smoother and make sure that your clients are protected.
And if you have something, Jeff, that you want to share with the whole group of participants today, you can send over to me and I will be sending them together with a recording of the session. So is it a one-time charge or is there a renewal charge?
Nope, there's a one-time charge. So it's a one-time fee.
Okay. The next question, title insurance will not cover known deficiencies, correct?
That's correct. Sorry, that's correct with a bit of a caveat. As I said before, just because it's known doesn't mean we won't cover it. That's an instance where you would get in contact with myself or our underwriting department, and we would look at it. So if there's something that's disclosed and you're thinking, oh no, it's not going to be covered, don't give up on it. Like definitely reach out to me or our underwriting department, because we can provide that answer, because there still might be a way that we can make sure that that's covered for you.
Okay, will lenders accept a builder's plan and title insurance instead of RPR?
Will lenders
accept a builder's plan and title insurance instead of RPR?
So again, Debbie, I'm going to answer this.
I can know more about the lender side, so I'll just owner side. So yes, will. So again, that needing an RPR, if the lender's using title insurance, we're not requiring the lender to get that RPR. So what I would say is just, you could always go back to the lender and say, you know what, if we're getting title insurance on this, will we still need the RPR or not? Sometimes with new subdivisions, they still want it though. So that's, you really got to determine that with the lender themselves. But I hope that's kind of the roundabout answer to it.
Okay. Next question is, can you elaborate on some examples of what would be considered known deficiencies?
So, I mean, there's a lot of known deficiencies or known risks, I guess, that are already in place. Things like if they did do basement developed and there wasn't permits pulled, if there's encroachments, if there is taxes that or there's a lien or anything that went on the property, that's something that we would have to look at. Yeah, like those would kind of be the main ones that we kind of see on a regular basis.
Okay. The next question is, in most situations, the owners have land title certificate. Could you straight out in what situations the owner is required to purchase title insurance?
So what situation they're required to purchase title insurance?
Yeah, because in the most situations, owners have land title certificate. So in what situation they're required to purchase title insurance?
The only instance I would think where they're required to purchase title insurance is if it's something that's mandated from a lender. In terms of a homeowner policy, and Debbie might know this better than me, I'm not sure of any instances where it would be required for them to purchase it.
No, you're dead on there, Jeff. I mean, obviously it's up to the owner if they want to purchase it or not. We do have some lenders that we work with that require an owner policy to also be purchased, but again, that's by lender. Many don't.
Is there any co-pay probabilities?
Is there any
co-pay probabilities?
Co-pay probabilities?
Yeah.
Not on the residential side, probably, because we'd be the only title insurer in the situation. I don't doubt there'd be another title insurer that would be on the situation. We do have that sometimes on the commercial side where it's bigger and we've gone in together with another title insurer on like these $100 million properties and whatnot. But Other than that, I don't think you'd see that on the title insurance. I haven't ever seen that on the residential side. But I don't know, maybe expand on your question there a little bit.
Yeah, Shelley, if you'd like to expand your question in the chat. The next question is, can you buy title insurance disclosing some issues?
Yeah, again, so if you're disclosing issues, and it's something that is a known issue, in terms of can you buy it, maybe that would be an instance again where you're reaching out to me, you're reaching out to our underwriting department, and it's something that we're taking a look at on a case-by-case basis. So again, the deal's not dead, or you're not able to buy title insurance just because there is something, but it's something that we have to dig deeper and look at.
Okay, the next question is from Stacy. If a seller's policy ends after the title shifts to the buyer, then if an issue came up with an RPR that was not available before the possession, and then the title transfers to the buyer, then wouldn't the seller no longer be covered for the issues on the RPR?
So if sorry, can you say that again?
I can read it again.
Sure.
If a seller policy ends after the title shifts to the buyer, then if an issue comes up with an RPR that was not available before possession, and when the title transfers to the buyer, then wouldn't the seller no longer be covered for the issues on the RPR?
So the seller's no longer covered on it, because if it's an issue that came up on the RPR for the purchase, then if it was a known issue, then it's something that we might not cover. But if it was an unknown issue, then that would be covered for the new buyer.
Okay. Shelley, I think Shelley wrote something regarding copay. Copay when the insurer pays a portion of the damage and the title company pays the balance. So
Yeah, no copay. We're just title insurance on our own, and each individual claim is just to ask the title insurer.
Okay. The next question is, so if we buy a house and we are aware upfront that there is no permit for the basement development, would title insurance help us with that?
If you were aware upfront, would they help you in the case of helping you remedy that? That would be a known issue, so that's not something that we would cover. But again, that is something that we would refer to our underwriting department to see if there's another way that we could maybe look at it or structure it to make something work in terms of getting an insurance policy in place. But in terms of paying it out, if it's something that was known before the purchase happened, it's not something that we would cover. It would be something if they didn't know that going ahead and it was uncovered in the future.
Okay, and the last question that I see here sounds like you'd want to buy title insurance as a buyer if a property is being sold as is and there isn't much disclosure from the seller. For example, a foreclosure.
So, I mean, in that instance, as I mentioned before, we're not here to send you on we're not here to be on a witch hunt. We're not asking you to be private investigators where you're grilling the person, but you need to make sure that you are asking the questions. If it was something that wasn't disclosed, then, I mean, it is something that we would still cover as long as it's not written in as an exception on the purchase agreement. But again, you're doing your due diligence to ask the questions. If it's something that they kept from you or they lied about or whatever, we're not going to withhold that. We're going to look to pay the claim in that instance.
Okay, and another question, what about a basement suite that was advertised as legal but turns out to be illegal?
So if it was advertised if it was advertised when you purchased it, so it said that it was a legal suite, and then down the road, it was determined that it wasn't. Again, that comes back to the disclosure. So if everything that was done was said that, the questions were asked and it was said that it was legal, if it came down the road that it wasn't, it would be something that we would look at because it was an unknown issue.
Okay. Any more questions? Please put them in the chat if you have any questions. Okay, I think we've answered all the questions. Copy of the presentation. Jeff, can we have a copy of this presentation?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can send this over to you, Marina.
Okay, no problem. I'll send it to everyone together with recording, which I will send tomorrow. And we have a question from Stacy in regards to that last one. Isn't the buyer supposed to do due diligence?
Isn't the buyer supposed to do due diligence?
Yeah.
Sorry, which question was this in relation to?
I think the question were about the suite, legal and illegal, as far as I remember.
So as far, and again, Debbie can correct me if I'm incorrect on this, as far as we're concerned, like with you guys as the realtors and you're asking the questions of the seller or the seller's realtor in that instance, where it's determined that it is a legal suite or they've said it is, if it, I'm not sure what due diligence would be expected there, to be honest, but to us, that is the due diligence, that you're asking those questions to ensure that they, you know, do disclose that. If something came up down the road where it was an illegal one, that's something again that we would look at, because if it wasn't disclosed, that would be something that would fall under our coverage.
Okay, and how much the clients are supposed to are looking to pay for the title insurance? I think you've mentioned that 250.
225. So looking at on average, again, there's a great quote calculator on quote.fct.ca. So maybe Marina, I'll send that along to you too, that you can fan out to everybody, because it's when I give that quote, we're looking at properties under 500,000 for residential and looking at a homeowner and a lender policy, because there is a discount when you apply both. So 225 on average.
Okay, and how can they get brochures?
Yeah, again, so I will absolutely get in contact with me, reach out to me, and I can forward those along or get you any information to answer any other questions that you guys have.
Clint sent a funny question. What is some good title insurance companies? Yeah, then said, just kidding. Okay, he's just joking. Yeah. If there was a lack of due diligence on buyer's realtor's part, does that affect how a deficiency is categorized as known or unknown?
So on the seller's buyer, is that what it said?
No. If there was a lack of due diligence on buyer's realtor's part, does that affect how a deficiency is categorized as known or unknown?
Well, yeah, it would be, because if you're not, if there's certain questions that aren't being asked, and I mean, again, you're not going to know everything, or you're not going to sit and go through a big list of every single question, because there's a lot of different issues that can go wrong. But I mean, you still need to ask if there's known issues or anything like that. If it's something that, you know, you never asked the question, you never had that conversation, then it's something that we would look at, because obviously that due diligence wasn't done at that time.
Can you purchase title insurance on a foreclosure?
Yes.
Okay. Most lawyers close today with gap insurance, so it is a benefit for the buyer to make sure they obtain the homeowner policy. Shelley said to everyone.
Oh, okay. I was like, I wasn't sure if that was a question. Yeah, absolutely. A gap coverage is a huge thing right now with how land titles are. So, you know, that's protecting the lender, but also adding that home policy in, as Shelley mentioned, is a great way to make sure that your clients are protected.
And we have a question: if a buyer purchases a home and where there is no permit for the basement, would title insurance cover this? I would guess no, right? Because it's no issue.
If it's a known issue, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. That's it. No more questions. I think, yeah.
All right. So I'll just say quickly, you know, thank you on behalf of FCT and Debbie and myself. Thank you very much for allowing us to meet with you guys, have this conversation and presentation. My contact information is here on the screen. Definitely reach out if there are other questions that come up, or maybe you, after you leave, you can't remember something that I talked about or a question that was asked. by all means, reach out to me. I'm here as one of your partners. And again, if there's realtors that you work with, friends that are in the industry that you think would benefit from this as well, we could definitely do a smaller session or a refresh for yourself where, you know, we could either do it virtually or in person. I could get together, maybe make it a little bit more content focused on what you're looking to learn. And also a great opportunity is if you want to do something like this with the legal professionals that you work with. So if there's a lawyer that you regularly send your deals to and you want, you know, them to be in the conversation as well, meet with lawyers all the time, and I'm happy to do that because it will help things run a little bit more efficiently between yourselves and your legal professionals, because everybody will be on the same page and we can ensure that it's a clear communication.
Thank you, everyone. And as I said, I will be sending the recording of the sessions together with a presentation and Jeff's contacts tomorrow to everyone who registered for this webinar. Thank you very much, Jeff. It was really a super informative session. I've learned a lot.
Great, thank you very much, Marina, for having me.
And I don't know if I have one or not. I need to ask my husband. Yeah, thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Bye.
If you have any questions, please send them directly to Jeff or send it to training@creb.ca and we will answer them for you. Thank you very much. And I'm closing the session for now.